All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
And I am Stan.
And Eric is unable to join us today. We are doing this podcast pretty late, but we had a lot of things going on and we're just trying to get this episode out. But we're excited to be talking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake news. My God, we got a lot of news. It was almost like, Jesus, should this be like multiple episodes? Because there's so much stuff to get into. So we have the 7 Remake coming to the PS5. We're going to comment on some of the enhancements that we saw. We're going to talk about the 7 Remake Intergrade announcement, which is the Yuffie DLC. So we're going to comment on that. And then we found out what 7 Remake Ever Crisis is, and also The Last Soldier, which we did an episode on that where we're doing some speculation, heavy speculation about what that might mean when they trademarked it. Maybe a month or so ago, and we were completely wrong. Well, we weren't completely wrong, but we did none of us got this, what they announced. None of us thought that. So we're gonna have a good laugh about that and then comment on, what we actually know right now. So should be a very good episode if you like Final Fantasy VII and the remake conversations that we do from time to time. I do want to point out there, this is going to be a spoiler episode for Final Fantasy VII and the 7 Remake. I apologize about that, but it's just too hard to comment on these things and not spoil the game, because we're talking about DLC, we're talking about remakes and where are these things placing on the timeline and who are these characters that are appearing in these trailers. And it's really just hard to talk about that and not spoil it. So we're just going to right out the gate, hey, we're not even going to try. We're just going to spoil Final Fantasy VII. So keep that in mind. But let's jump into it. So, like I said, we're going to start off with 7 Remake on the PS5. That was the first announcement before we get into some of the story stuff. So 7 Remake's coming to the PS5, and it's kind of interesting because players that currently own the PS4 version are going to get a free upgrade to just the PS5 version, but they will not get the Yuffie DLC. So they're going to get all the enhancements that we're going to talk about for free, but they're not going to get the story stuff. You'll still have to pay an extra fee for that, and we'll get to that there in just a moment. But the 7 Remake is also coming to the PlayStation Plus service, which is the Sony version of basically Game Pass, right? And we just want to clarify here that if you get it on PlayStation Plus, basically for free, or that monthly fee or whatever you pay, you will not be able to upgrade to the PS5 version. That will not be a thing. So just keep that in mind. You play it for free, but you'll still have to buy a version of the game, whether that's on the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5, to get these enhancements. And you'll still have to buy the DLC if you want the Yuffie DLC. But the enhancements are save transfer option from PS4 version. So that's pretty cool. If you have a game that your save file, you're midway through and then you get PS5, you can transfer that file over, or you can just keep your character that's all beefed up if you just want to do a story mode version of the game, and you can transfer that save over. Very cool. We have minimized loading times. We're using a solid state drive with the PS5, but they got to throw it out there because it's big. Some of these load times are, an eighth of the time. So definitely pretty cool. Higher quality textures, so a lot more detail. You don't have PlayStation 1 doors anymore in some of the towns, right? So that's got to be pretty cool, pretty big. We have improved lighting because the PlayStation 5 has a lot more advanced hardware, so they can support some of those more advanced features. You can really see that, I think, with some of the indoor shots, which look really good. There's going to be 2 different display modes on the PS5 version. There's going to be a graphics mode and a performance mode. Graphics mode is going to prioritize a 4K resolution at 30 FPS, and then performance mode is 60 FPS, and we don't know the resolution of that. I would go ahead and assume probably 1080p. Maybe it goes a little bit higher than that, 1440. I don't know, but it's not going to be 4K at 60. I know that. So pretty cool with that. They're also going to have a photo mode, which is basically you pause the screen at any point in the game, and it's not going to be a pause screen. It's going to let you take a photo, and you can adjust the lighting and make all sorts of cool screenshots. It's not going to be like Final Fantasy 15 where you're like posing with your buds and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's not going to be like that where, the Final Fantasy VII Remake version of Prompto is going to pop out and be like, "Hey, Cloud, let's take a photo."
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You just have to hit pause, and you got to be Prompto yourself. So that's what's going to happen with that. And then we're going to have an enhanced classic mode. So if you guys don't remember, 7 Remake, the original version, I can't believe I'm saying that, but the original version that came out last year, there was an enhanced or there was a classic mode. All this terminology is getting to me. There was a classic mode where it would kind of try to simulate turn-based combat. It really felt very half-baked. I don't think I knew anyone that really played the whole game like that. But people like us were a little critical that they called it the classic mode, and it was really the easy mode because they rebalanced the game to be super easy. So this enhanced classic mode is going to be the standard classic mode with kind of a pause feature for combat, but it's also going to enhance the difficulty so it will not be such a breeze. So maybe more people will try that mode out. And then there's going to be a Dirge of Cerberus character, Weiss, who can now be fought in the battle simulator. I believe that's going to be in the PS5 base version for free. However, make sure you double check that before you buy a PS5 because I believe that's the case, but we'll let you know if we hear anything else about that, if maybe we got that wrong, because there was already some misreporting on a couple different things within the past week and a half. So things are really moving pretty fast here. So, and then Stan, you also found online that it was misreported that initially it was reported that if you own the Final Fantasy VII Remake digital version, that was going to not carry over to the PlayStation 5 for free. However, you found on the Square website that it was going to carry over. And so that was one of those examples of things that were misrepresented. Stan will have to join us here shortly. It looks like his internet's pausing, but all right, Magic, we're back. So having a little bit of connectivity problems, but you guys should not know in post more than just a second or two of hassle. But anyways, so those are the enhancements that we have with the PlayStation 5 version. I was saying, Stan, that basically you found that there was a misreporting that was later corrected on the Square website or the Sony website, I believe you were saying, where effectively people were reporting that if you own Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 4 digitally, that you can't upgrade for free to the PlayStation 5. But you found as long as you own the disc version, right, that you would be able to upgrade for free. Is that what you found? Did I get that right?
Well, basically, the only way you can't upgrade for free is if you have the disc version of FF7 Remake for PS4, and you have a digital only console of the PS5, because obviously there's no disc drive. So
Right.
if you want the free version and you have a FF7 Remake disc, you have to put the disc into your PS5 physically, and it has to stay in there, I guess, to verify, kind of like verifying the
I'm
license
gotcha.
that you purchased the game. Yeah.
So a little interesting that they were getting that wrong, but outside of that, well, let's comment on this first. What do you think about, we'll comment on what we think about some of the upgrades or enhancements there before we get into the story stuff, but what do you think about Square giving people the PS5 upgrade for free? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I was a little surprised. I thought they
Yeah,
would
me
just
too.
bundle it all together. I thought like it would be the Yuffie DLC, and that would be kind of a justification or a reason for them to just charge you for everything, right?
Oh,
You get the Yeah,
okay.
I thought it would be like $20 to $30, and you get the Yuffie DLC and all these PS5 enhancements, and you just get that.
Okay. So you didn't think that you weren't thinking like, oh, they'll give you, well, I mean, we didn't know the DLC was going to be there, but you weren't thinking like, oh, like it would be Square's policy to give you the 7 remake on the PS5 and the Yuffie DLC for free. You were saying that no, they would just charge like $30 or $40 and make that
Yeah.
Yuffie DLC the attractor, or lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
I thought it was gonna be like, kinda like Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, where the DLC episodes are included, right? But it also has enhancements that are, like all kinds of quality of life enhancements and improvements from the original base, like PS4 version of
Yeah.
FF15. But really, what they've done this time is said, okay, you get all the quality of life and the enhancements for free if you are able to essentially update your PS4 version of the game to the PS5 version. And then the DLC is separate.
Yeah.
You have to purchase the DLC separate. So I think that is better, right, than what they did in the past. So that's why it was a little surprising because it's a better deal for the consumer. You get to pick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that, well, I mean, I thought two things. I thought number one, that maybe they were trying to just, well, obviously it's a deal with Sony. And then I think that they're kind of hinting that future installments are going to be on the PlayStation 5. So they want you to buy that, get their fan base on, and they're kind of dipping their toe in the water to see what's going to happen here with this and see if people are going to freak out. But the real big thing here I'm thinking is, okay, they were worried about people needing like a PowerPoint presentation to understand what version of the game they're getting, right?
mhm.
And because imagine a scenario where someone owns a PS5 and they own 7 Remake on PS4. And if Square wanted to charge you for the PS5 upgrade, and that person stuck the PS4 version in their PS5 but did not buy it, you would get some enhancements naturally because it's
Right.
on better hardware, but you wouldn't get all of them. And then it
Mhm.
would be a PR nightmare because then the person would say, like, I don't like, why would you buy that on the PS5? It's a PS4 game. Maybe they're streaming it saying it's the PS5 version. And,
Oh,
they did
yeah.
all this work and people are like, oh, that doesn't look that good.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a problem. So they're just like, you know what? Like, we're just, no, you're, you play it on PS5, you're going to get the best looking version. You already bought it once. And I think that's very fair. I think that's very reasonable, but that's what I think is going on there. In addition to them just trying to get people onto the PS5. So what did you think about the enhancements though? Like obviously we're going to get into the story stuff next, but what did you think about what you saw with all the enhancements we went over?
It's all good. It all looks like good stuff. I think the biggest one, in my opinion, is the textures. Um,
Interesting.
because there was a lot of it was just jarring sometimes to see like these kind of blurry textures, but like somehow you have these character models running by these blurry textures that are just like amazingly detailed,
Right.
character models. And like the battles, like they didn't run at a high frame rate, but they ran at a stable frame rate, even with all the kind of frantic action going on and like
Hmm.
lots of particle effects on all the spells and
Right.
abilities and everything. Yet they couldn't get these textures to look better than, like PS2 textures, sometimes even worse looking, it seemed like.
Hmm.
So that's like the biggest improvement, I think, to at least try and bring the quality, like you're bringing the quality of kind of the lower performing graphics in the game, right? To like at least try and meet the standard that they
Right.
already set with other parts of the game so that it's not such an uneven visual experience.
Yeah, I did notice that. And I think you're right in that, okay, the original game, it looked gorgeous at times. And then other times you would see like a JPEG in the background that was supposed to be, ruins, or you would see the PlayStation
Yeah.
1 looking door and around it would be amazing. So the fact that that's going to be fixed, that is a big deal because, for whatever reason, they couldn't make that work on the PlayStation 4, probably because I had a mechanical hard drive. But anyways, it's getting into the weeds. But I do agree with you that it's really cool that they're fixing all that. So that way we're going to have more immersion with this game and it's going to be less obvious. But I got to be honest, I think that I'm most excited. That's like my third excited thing about this version.
Oh,
My
okay.
number one and number two, well, my number one is the minimized loading times. Not that this game had massive loading times, but now that's going to be like basically nothing. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. It's going to be weird because they put in the PS4 version all these planned instances where you have to high five Aerith and stuff because they
Or
were
or
loading.
yeah, or slide through a gap, right?
Yeah.
Like at a
So
very slow speed.
so now we're just going to do that for fun. You know, because that's not going to have to happen on the PlayStation 5. But regardless, you know, things are going to move a little bit faster, which I think is going to be more immersive. And then also, uh, the 60 FPS, I'm really excited about. I don't know. I think I'm going to toy around with it at the 4K resolution because I do have a 4K TV, and the fact that I can't play this on PC makes me kind of want to see what this game would look like at 4K. But 60 FPS will be really, really cool, and I want to play it at that. So I'm excited for that reason. I mean, this is going to be the version that I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII Remake in the future on. Like, I can't see any reason to play on the PlayStation 4. At least right now, we don't know. It might be a train wreck when it comes out. I doubt it, but
Yeah.
you know, we'll have to put that possibility in the hat here. But I think that this is probably going to be the version that I'm going to play going forward, assuming I can get a PlayStation 5 because I don't have one. So,
I don't either. I didn't have plans to get one
yeah,
anytime soon because it's expensive, and also I would have to be lucky to get one either way, it
yeah,
seems. But I am I was planning to like do a hard mode run of the game, which I haven't done yet. Um, but now I feel like I can hold off and play it on the PlayStation 5 version, right? Because my save data can just transfer right over, so I can just hit New Game Plus on hard mode essentially and just run through the game again, but on PS5.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good reason to hold out. I mean, it's coming out fairly soon, so when you can get a PS5, that'll be a good time to re-experience it.
Yeah. I wonder, since the loading times are improved, if they would go the extra step to make those kind of slow transition moments where you have to hold the triangle button, like just go a little faster, right? Increase Cloud's movement speed as he slinks
Like he's just like,
through the like yeah, like you just go through a little bit faster so that because there it should no longer be necessary, right? Those textures that
yeah,
sometimes would be like all blurry and then pop in,
hmm,
like kind of pop in. If they optimize it for the PS5, that shouldn't be necessary anymore, right?
yeah.
So
I agree. I agree. I don't know. I don't know if they'll go that in depth. They might. We'll have to wait and see. It'd be cool if they do though. So, all right. Cool. Let's get into some of the story stuff here. Are you still with me?
mhm.
Cool. So we got Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is what they're calling this. It was announced at Sony's State of Play live stream, and it's a DLC that's exclusive to the PS5. So you will not be able to play the Yuffie DLC on the PS4 unless you all revolt pitchforks at Square Enix's office. You might be able to turn the tide, but all likelihood this is not going to come to the PS4. They're PS5 exclusive for right now. If you did upgrade from the PS4 to the PS5 version in the future, you will still have to buy the DLC. You just don't have to buy the PS5 version of the game. And we only know the Japanese price right now, but it translates to roughly $20. So that's kind of pricey for DLC, but we don't know all of what we're getting with this. But
Yeah.
from what we see, some of it seems pretty cool. So anyway, so current release date for this Intergrade version is June 10th, 2021. So right around the corner. And you will not need to finish the 7 remake to play the DLC. So you can just play it on the menu and just play it that way if that's what you prefer. And the DLC cannot be played without the base game. So although you don't have to beat the game, you do have to own the game. So keep that in mind as well. We just talked about the PS5 exclusivity here, where Square's forcing people to buy a PS5 basically to play this. I mean, I think we kind of covered that there, right? Basically,
Yeah, I think it's also a sign that part 2 is just it's gonna be on the PS5.
yeah,
Like
I think Cyberpunk really shifted the tides. I think that back in November, we were all very, like gaming companies too, were very like unicorns and rainbows about, oh yeah, we're going to support both consoles. And then Cyberpunk came out and they were like, we're not going to support both consoles. Because, like, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, we don't know, but it was supposed to be PS4 and PS5, and that was supposed to come out this year, and that was not at the state of play. And people are
Mm,
thinking like, oh, maybe they saw Cyberpunk, and we're like, and
yeah.
I wonder if, Final Fantasy 16, I wonder if part 2 of 7 Remake, if those were all going to be PS4. We do know that with 16, but I wonder if Square's like, well, let's get this DLC out here. Let's see if they would flip out if we'd made it exclusive.
Yeah, and yeah, I wonder if Sony's hand is also involved because 'cause I'm sure
I'm
that is
sure.
a consideration that's like, yeah, like to support both consoles when it isn't so simple as just the console is more powerful, right? Because it
Hmm.
also has like the PS5 controller has like unique features, unique rumble, and the hard drive is a different uh, setup altogether. That allows for it's a SSD that allows for great loading times and such. And so, if you really want to optimize it for the new console, it's like, well, yeah, it's very difficult to. You're essentially developing almost two games at the same time.
Think of,
Um,
that's a good point. Think about it, because people say, "Oh, it's not holding back the previous generation or the current generation to release on the older console." But if Final Fantasy VII Remake never came out on the PS4, if it was a PS5 exclusive from the get go, you wouldn't have all those planned moments with Cloud like shimmying through the alleyways and whole
yeah,
triangle. Those elements wouldn't be in there at all.
yeah, it wouldn't be necessary. Yeah,
So, or maybe it still would be necessary. Maybe they would just make the areas even bigger to the point where you would need to do that. Can't even imagine on a PS5. But
yeah.
anyways, so
Oh, but
go ahead.
one quick point. I'm
Yeah,
wondering if Sony's is has paid for like or has because they're good business partners with Square. I wonder if there's some kind of deal where the reason that Yuffie DLC is exclusive to PS5 is because Sony is really trying to sell a lot more PS5s in Japan. Where, from what I understand, the sales for PS5 in Japan are kind of like really lagging. Like console gaming in Japan is really on a downturn, other than the Switch, which is also a because it's a mobile device, you can take it with you, so it's selling better. But like recently, console sales in Japan are way down. So I wonder if Sony kind of pushed them and said like, hey, we really want all your FF7 remake content going forward
yeah.
to be on PlayStation 5 because we're trying to sell a lot more
I
PS5s in Japan.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And then I also think, in addition to that, there's been a lot of negativity around both consoles, the Xbox and the PlayStation 5, because we're in a current generation and they just don't have any like current gen games. There's a
Mm,
little bit, but there's not a lot. And so a lot of the appeal for people to buy right now is backwards compatibility, and that's about it. So people are like really like, where's the freaking games? I know
yeah.
we're coming out of COVID, but there's no freaking games. And I
Mhm.
think that I've seen a lot of people say, hey, I never thought I would say this, but if I was to buy a next gen console right now, I would buy an Xbox Series X because it is more powerful and Game Pass is such a good deal. At least I can play
Oh,
those
yeah.
games, So I think Sony's sitting there looking like, we have to have stuff come out this year for our console. Not that they have to. I mean, they're still killing it
Yeah,
by
yeah.
a lot, but I think that they're just thinking in their head, like, okay, let's like, what's something that can get people excited? And I think we're starting to see the wheels turn a little bit in Sony, where they're like, you know what, maybe this whole supporting the PS4, maybe we really should be pushing people to the PS5 more so, even though people can't find the console. It's just, we're going a really long time with very few announcements of games. So things are going to
Yeah.
have to pick up here soon. So I don't know. I don't know. To me, you would think Sony would want it on both consoles because it would make more money, but maybe they just want more unique factor to the PS5 to not have somebody go in on an Xbox.
I think so. Yeah. Like I think they're like you said, they're looking under they're calling up every developer right now for asking them if they can get some exclusive DLC or content or their game,
Something. Yeah.
on PS5. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so let's get into finally, we're gonna get into the story stuff. So the DLC, what is it? So it's rated teen by the ESRB. So it's a Yuffie DLC. It's rated teen, so we're not gonna see any carnage, any blood. People criticize the Shinra Tower portion of the 7 remake because they made the blood purple from Genova, and people were like, what the hell, man? In the PlayStation version, there was all this blood. It was red blood, it was real blood. There's bodies, and they took that out. So this DLC, it's not a risky DLC. It's not going to be rated M like Final Fantasy 16. It's rated teen. So keep that in mind. But that doesn't mean it's going to suck, just kind of FYI. But it's a Yuffie episode, and the premise is that Yuffie is from the new Wutai government and is teaming up with Avalanche to infiltrate the Shinra company to try and steal a certain ultimate materia to help her homeland of Wutai. So Nomura stated this takes place between the events of 7 Remake Part 1 and Part 2, which was misinformation or was mistranslated because Square had to come out later and say that these events take part simultaneously. And that what Nomura meant by between Part 1 and Part 2 was it literally, like in real life, is being released between Part 1 and Part 2, not like in the story. Anyways. So it's kind of funny that he felt the need to say that because obviously the game's already out. Like,
Part 1 is out. Yeah.
So it's clearly not before that. But anyways, so, and then Nomura stated the word intergrade. There's no special meaning with the story. He just said it means middle or to move, as in move to the PS5. And to him, I guess this pays a homage to the original title of FF7 outside of Japan, which is, they called it the FF7 International version, which is interesting. But anyways, I kind of believe that from Nomura because his titles don't make any goddamn sense. So, okay, fine, I'll accept that. But the reveal of Yuffie itself, I have lots and lots and lots and lots of thoughts on this. Where are you sitting with this? Because we actually have not talked about this. We talked a little bit about Ever Crisis and The Last Soldier a little bit, but we have not talked about the Yuffie DLC. So I don't know if we're even on the same page, but where are you at with this? Did you like what you saw, or like, what do you think?
So, in terms of the little gameplay snippets that we saw, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about these new characters like that are essentially being introduced to the FF7 universe. Like,
Okay.
we have to see how that plays out because in Part 1 we also got new characters like Roche and Andrea and Madam M and some of these other Wall Market characters, and it was kind of,
Hit or miss.
I mean, they were all right.
Yeah.
None of them really amazed me. I didn't really think any of them were these great characters. So
But
I don't know.
what about
But
Yuffie herself? What'd you think about that whole thing?
um, I thought she looked good. Like the character design is like very faithful to the original. As far as like the kind of the presentation or the performance of it's a trailer, so I think it's like a little too early to tell. Um, I thought the voice acting was pretty spot on. Was fine for her. She is supposed to be kind of a little bit bratty and obnoxious
Yeah.
and kind of full of her. Well, not egotistical, but I guess overestimating her knowledge and skills at this stage of her life. That's kind of who Yuffie is. She's very young, but thinks that she's basically got it figured out, and the adults, just don't get it. Typical young, headstrong character. So I saw that like in the presentation of the character, so I was on board with it. Um, I'm just not sure about the other characters. We really haven't seen enough of them to
Okay.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. I well look, let me start off and say when I saw the announcement that, because there wasn't a lot of exciting stuff like that state of play. So I think that that was definitely a highlight was the Yuffie stuff. And I was really excited to see some DLC
Mm,
for 7 remake. Can't believe I'm saying that, but if there's anything that I did enjoy about 15, it was the excitement and build up and theory crafting about the DLCs and like what, oh crap, I can look forward to this one coming out in 3 months. I didn't like what the DLC was in terms of,
mhm.
the character stories. I thought that should have been in the main narrative, but I think that like the excitement factor of expanding the story in new ways was really fun. And I was kind of disappointed when it looked like we weren't going to get that with 7 Remake because I felt like I wanted to explore Midgar more, you
Yeah.
know, and get and see more of it. And that was what they were selling 7 Remake being a Midgar to be about. And I was kind of like, oh, maybe we'll get it in DLC. And it looked like we weren't going to get it. So I thought it was cool that we are getting DLC. I think it's cool with this premise that we're going to get to see more of Midgar, I would presume. That's really, really cool. And I was definitely very excited to see Yuffie. I'm a little uncertain about this premise, though. I got to be honest, because I know that's it's a remake, so they're kind of starting fresh. But I think that they're really taking liberties with things that I'm maybe it's because it's a trailer, but it doesn't quite make sense to me. And I'm keeping it real with those listening and watching. We are not a podcast YouTube channel that shies away from criticizing stuff. So if you like places where it's just sunshine and rainbows all the whole time with the 7 remake,
Yeah.
we're gonna hit both sides here.
We keep it real. We
Yeah,
keep it
we're
real around here.
like he said. So let me get into this. Okay, so the first thing is Avalanche and Wutai. So in the 7 remake, one of the things that they changed that we were kind of talking about, and it was like a big discussion point early on, was that Shinra was framing Avalanche. He was framing Avalanche for like the bomb stuff, right? And we were like, oh, that wasn't like that in the original game, but okay, And so this was a whole plot beat. And then they introduced in the game that, oh, he's framing Avalanche to make it look like there's an alliance between Avalanche and Wutai so that they can go to war because he wants to stoke the flames of war in the hearts of the people.
Mhm.
And Barrett's like all mad because this isn't real and like this isn't the thing that like Avalanche is about. And remember, he's like, "What Wutai? What are you talking
Yeah.
about?" You know,
Yeah.
it was it was a big thing, and then it was like this whole deception element with like the media and how they're not telling you the truth and like
Yeah.
that was
Propaganda. Yeah.
yeah, it was a really cool aspect that they added to the 7 remake. And so when you have this DLC where I know it's a different branch of Avalanche, but apparently, according to Barrett, they felt like Barrett's branch was too extreme, right? So this new branch, this other branch, is now working with Wutai. And I'm like, because I'm like, wasn't that a plot point that like Shinra was like lying to the people, but now that's really happening, you
That's a
know?
good point. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. I wonder if because the stories are happening simultaneously, I wonder if something is going to happen during this Yuffie episode that is really going to like um
Connect them.
President Shinra is going to like catch them stealing from them or something, and like, oh look, we have reason to go after Wu Tai again now because of Yuffie and her plot with Avalanche or whatever.
Yeah.
But that is a good point. That it's like, yeah, the whole propaganda element was Wu Tai and Avalanche weren't really working together. It was just an excuse created by Shinra to put fear in people's hearts, so that Avalanche or Wu Tai would destroy these reactors or do all these terrible things, and you have to rely on Shinra to protect you, right? Even more. But now it's like, oh, but actually Wu Tai and Avalanche are in cahoots and are trying to attack the Shinra. Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm like this is like the whole basis of Barrett's character arc in the remake is like, oh, like he realizes now firsthand that the propaganda Shinra's putting out and like he bought it and he can't blame the people for buying it because but I'm like, dude, President Shinra's not wrong necessarily. Like,
yeah,
like this is a foreign country they're at war with, and this terrorist cell is now working with them, you know, and to like
yeah,
steal secrets from the like nation. Like,
yeah.
like it's so but I see your point where they could make it work by Yuffie being there and not meaning to cause harm, but
Yeah,
he's
it could
going
be
to
yeah, it could end up being her fault because I guess in the original game, Wutai is kind of more, they're subdued, right? They're defeated, and the glory days of Wutai are gone, and Yuffie is the one who's, like, trying to say, like, "Oh, no, we can rise up again." So, it's possible she's working on her own, like, to kinda work with Avalanche and, cause Shinra problems, essentially. But
yeah, I hope that's the case. It's just in the trailer, it's implied that she's from the new Wu Tai government.
yeah,
However, it could be she could be lying. And I hope that's the case because that will make it much more complex, I guess, or just kind of dicey about,
yeah,
hey, you're trying to save your people and you just cast them into war. Like
right.
that's like you really checked up. So that could be kind of cool. I hope that's the route they go. But from what we've seen, I'm a little like, I don't know, like this kind of
We shall see.
like seems like they kind of didn't think this through, you know. So the other thing also is the character arc or theme of Yuffie. I'm not so sure about because the original game we didn't get a lot. We got a fair amount with her, but it wasn't as much as some of the other characters because she was a secret character. I know you know this, but people listening,
Mhm.
just to remind them that she was a secret character. And so she was an optional character. And so they didn't spend as much time with her, but there was a fair amount with you going to Wutai and had the whole sequence with her taking your materia and stuff like that. But it's broken up in the game that she's working alone. She left on her own quest. And her entire thing is like, hey, my entire city, my entire, like, where I grew up, we have this deep, rich culture, and it's been completely watered down and sold out to like materialism and just like a corporate ideology that, we're just a resort town. We're just like
Mhm.
just a shell of what we were. We're selling our culture to make money because of Shinra. And so I'm against that. I'm against what they've done to my culture. I want my culture back and what we used to be. And she's trying to locate materia because that's all she knows, because she feels that that will give them an edge in conflict with Shinra. And she's working alone, whereas some of the adults are kind of like, Yuffie, this is the way it is now. Just, that's what it is. And so that's the idea of Yuffie that I have. And I know that this Moogle costume is from Dirge of Cerberus. Dirge of
Oh, yeah.
Cerberus is really dumb. They shouldn't pull stuff from that at all. But the fact that they're bringing it back with the Moogle costume infuriates me because in this world of 7 remake, Moogles do not exist. It's a mascot for
Oh, yeah.
for a casino, for
Yes.
a gold saucer, for a resort. So
Yeah.
why would she the thing that your town has turned into? You're gonna just walk around in this thing and it's like imply like it's like your favorite thing. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. But anyways, I'm gonna try to like mentally get over the freaking the Moogle costume thing. And I just want to talk about real quick her reveal in the trailer where she's like, "My name's Yuffie. I'm a materia hunter extraordinaire." And I'm like, "What
Yeah.
is she in the Gull Wings? She might as well be like a sphere hunter from 10-2."
Oh, yeah.
Like she was kind of like in the original game, she was kind of like scheming, and I could see, she was kind of like a little less immature, but I never saw her like that. So it's kind of an interesting interpretation. So I'm not crazy about what they're doing with her character. I think they're getting some of it wrong. However, I will acknowledge that if this was a brand new character that I didn't know anything about, I would say this looks good.
Yeah.
You know, like it looks like, oh, like I want to play that. So
Yeah.
I have to kind of like keep it 50-50 there where it's kind of like I'm kind of confused how what they're doing fits in with what was previously established. And it's kind of hard to know because we only got a short trailer. Maybe some of those details will be filled in, but I'm a little apprehensive about what they showed us.
Yeah, I think the like the Moogle costume and such is it is just a Dirge of Cerberus reference, and that's why it's there. Although I agree with you that like in the established plot or like lore of the game, that probably isn't a very good choice
Yeah.
of a costume. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you there. It is kind of like you said though, you have to take one hand and then the other hand because FF7 Remake is kind of doing its own thing. It's shown that it's not necessarily tied down completely by the previously established, story of the original game. Not just in kind of the more drastic changes it made like towards the end of the game and with the arbiters of fate, but also just in like other things like different chapters they did like with the Shinra Tower is different. The like going up to the top plate to meet Jesse's parents, that never happened in the original game, and it's not like the plot ghosts didn't make that happen, right? They are also just making changes for the sake of
They're new
they want to
scenes.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just want to change things. So Yuffie's character might not be exactly the same. They might just decide to change it, and if they do, they do. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Yeah,
It is what it is. I can't change it. I can't,
yeah,
you know, we can't do anything else now. It's too far out there. And I don't necessarily think what is there looks bad.
yeah.
It's just different. So
Mhm.
I want to get that out there. But like you were bringing up earlier, there were some new characters. So real quick, let's touch on that. The Sonen Kosabi, or however you say his name, the male character that joins her. He's a Avalanche member from the other Avalanche team, and in the trailer, he appears to be assisting Yuffie. At one point, he refers to her as boss, which indicates
Mm.
that she's in charge of him. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. So Nomura did an interview with Famitsu and kind of talked about some of this. So we have some questions that they asked Nomura, and we're going to kind of read this here real quick. So we got, what kind of character is the new character Sonen? Nomura says, in FF7R, we briefly touched upon the topic that Barrett's Avalanche and the other Avalanche are two separate groups. Yuffie actually came to Midgar for materia, but she gets involved on a mission with the other Avalanche group. Basically, Cloud Barrett and company are doing their own thing and with Avalanche group, while Yuffie and the others are doing theirs separately. That's the basic gist of the story. So our group is doing something different. And then Yuffie and Sunan have a joint battle together. What kind of battle is it? That's Famitsu asking this. Nomura says, the battle system will be slightly different than FF7R. You'll not be able to control Sonen. The player will control Yuffie in battle instead. In the tactical mode, you'll be able to give commands to Sonen though. So, in tactical mode, you'll be able to give commands to Sonen though. As for new gameplay elements, Yuffie and Sonen will be able to battle together. I hope you enjoy this slightly different battle system compared to 7 Remake. Basically, it's kind of like 15, I gather, where you can like issue commands and they'll do those special moves, but it's not, you're not
Mhm.
going to be controlling Sonen and running through town and stuff like that.
Yeah. I would hope that if you can't switch to Sonen to control him directly, I would hope that his ATB bar, because he has ATB bars like on the gameplay that we've seen. I
Mm-hmm.
would hope those charge faster than in Final Fantasy VII Remake, because in Remake Part 1, the whole point was you had to switch characters frequently in order to be efficiently charging up those ATB bars. That was kind of
The whole
the whole
thing.
skill, I guess, around the battle system was switching characters every so often so that you're building up everybody's ATB, because those ATB bars are really how you win. The
Right.
damage from your regular attacks is not enough to be that significant at the end of the day. So if Sonnen, if you can't switch to him and like control him to physically attack, then I would hope that his ATB bars either charge up like along with Yuffie's as you control Yuffie, or that they just charge faster in general. So,
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, they're going to have to make up the fact that you are not controlling him, and
mhm.
it'll be interesting. He says it's slightly different from the main game, so I think that the ATB bar speeding up would fit into that
Yeah, because
kind of description.
there's also some like instances in the trailer where Yuffie goes into her list of abilities, and there's an ability that she chooses that is called like synergized something I can't remember at the moment. Synergized wind strike or something like that.
Okay.
And when she uses it, both Sonnen and Yuffie spend one of their ATB bars at the same time, and they do like a team up attack where they both use an ability at the same time. So that's kind of why it's like, well, I hope Sonen's ATB bars are charging a bit faster than in the original FF7 remake. Otherwise, you're going to have tons of ATB with Yuffie, and you're just going to be staring at Sonen's gauge down there, hoping that, waiting for it to get high enough so you can use these team up abilities.
Yeah. I know this is a different team. I think there's some overlap with some of the people from Final Fantasy 15 a little bit, but I think that this is largely new people. But
Hmm.
so this is not really concrete info here, but I would say that the DLC from 15, the gameplay was, I think, better in all those DLCs. At least the three main story DLCs. Promptos was a little weak. Ignis's and Gladio's DLC gameplay was much better than the main game. Especially Gladio's was really good. So I think that, sometimes when they have time to sit with the game and they can kind of read people's criticisms and then they get another chance to refine it a little bit, this might
Yeah.
be, I think this will be pretty good. And it'll be an option too for them to kind of toy with things for part 2, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
My guess is Yuffie will be joining the party like much sooner rather than later in part 2, because they're already going to have done all this work on her
mhm.
and her animations and everything. So they probably won't hold off. You'll probably be able to recruit Yuffie very shortly, starting into part 2.
Yeah, that's the thing that gets me is I agree with you. If they're already establishing her here, I mean, granted, at this point in the story in the original, after you leave Midgar, I mean, you're gonna do the Nibelheim flashback instance. You're gonna get the Chocobo. You'll have the Midgar Zolom. You can do Fort Condor, but around that point, you're running into Yuffie for your first time before you get to
Yeah.
Junin. It's optional, so it, your mileage may vary, but I mean, she's pretty much coming right after this. So, but it seems like it might be even earlier than that. Maybe because she's going to be apparently in Midgar at the same time. So I guess they don't really establish what she was doing when you run into her at Fort Condor, right? She just happens
You
to be kind of walking around.
Well, you find her
Well,
just in a random encounter in the forests
near
in
Fort,
that
Fort
area.
Condor, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They might change the scenario altogether to have more of a like a scripted way that you meet her and then she joins.
Nah,
Maybe
man.
she's like,
I want
no,
something very similar. I don't want it to be optional, but I want the same type of scenario where you
uh,
have to like
pick
I don't know,
the right dialogue.
act like you're not interested. I don't
Yeah,
know. It'd be
I was just thinking like maybe you meet her, she's like haggling, trying to get a chocobo to cross the swamp or something.
when she tries to
At the
steal it and you have to track
Yeah,
her down. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually let's say this, right? She's doing like you said, well, she's trying to get a chocobo and she steals the chocobo because she didn't have any money and she's a thief. Okay. And because she steals the chocobo, Chocobo Sam's like, you want a chocobo? You got to go get that thief, right?
Oh yeah.
And then you catch the thief, and then she's like, I'm just trying to like, I hate Shinra. And then they're like, oh, like you want to join our team? Like, I think it might be something, maybe not that corny, right?
Direct. Yeah, yeah.
But anyways,
I could see something like that happening. Yeah.
yeah. But this character Sonnen, do you think he's going to become a new member of the party? Or do you
No,
think he's going to be more Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge territory?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it would be too obvious if he's, like, killed, I guess, if he ends up dying in this DLC episode,
Mhm.
but it could happen. But since you can't control him directly, that gives me the feeling that he's just a guest character for this. And maybe he would join as a guest character again, like later on in the story.
Well, we have Nanakai or Red 13, right? In 7 Remake Part 1. He was
Yeah.
just a guest character.
Yeah. They seem to have put more work into Sonnen for this than they did for Red 13 in part 1 because he has like his own battle UI, he's got like HP. You can give him commands using the tactical menu and stuff, but I don't know. I just don't see why they would if he was going to join the team, I feel like they would just make him playable now, you know?
Right. Well, maybe they don't want
But
to deal with like upgrading and like carrying that over. But I see your
yeah,
point. Like, why,
but
why put it off?
it is possible, but I wonder how people would react to like who's this new Sonnen guy joining? Like when my favorite character, Sid or Vincent or whoever, hasn't joined the party yet. Like, is that really necessary? Like, why can't we just get the band back together? That was good enough.
Yeah.
So that may be why they want another character in the battles with Yuffie, but they're
Hmm.
hesitant to like add another character to the group, like to the main cast of characters, because that might change the
The
dynamic too
dynamic.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, because he seems, although he calls Yuffie boss, he seems like he'd be a good leader. We don't know a lot about him. He might be a terrible leader, but he seems like he looks like the part, right? And
Yeah.
so there's the instance in 7 where Cloud's no longer in the party and Sid takes over because we've already tried Barrett being the leader. Barrett's like, no, I'm not doing this, And so
Yeah.
it falls on Sid because he seems like the leader. And you play Final Fantasy 7, the story, with Sid as like the main protagonist your first time. You're like, what's going on
First
here?
for a part, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's crazy. So I could see with this character being in the party, they might be like, no, let's get Sonnen. Like this guy seems much more like a leader than Sid. So I could definitely see that. I just think that this new character from what they presented, I didn't find it repulsive. Like you brought up with Roche or Soldier Joe Dirt,
Oh, yeah.
like where
He's
he's
he
laughing like
seemed
a maniac and it's just so over the top.
yeah, this Sonnen guy seems much more mellow, right? It's much more
Down to earth.
he's got it all under control, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is way better. This guy could actually be like if they traded well, if instead of Roche we got Sonnen as the soldier first class and he didn't use a staff, he used a sword. I could buy that. I mean, this seems like a down to earth guy. So
Mhm.
I actually kind of like what they're showing here with that character, and it's for Square Enix character editions. It's not bad. It's not bad, but
Yeah.
I share your concern of what are they going to do? With this guy, they might do something crazy. This might be Yuffie's boyfriend or something. Which, hey, whatever. So,
Yeah.
the most controversial one here we have is uh this new character Weiss. So Weiss appears, and if you don't know who that is, he's at the end of the trailer, and like you kind of see his face and stuff. But he's one of the antagonists in Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus. And if you're not aware of his background, just it's kind of convoluted, but just a very shorthand version. He's a member of Soldier and what's called Deep Ground. And basically, Deep Ground is like a top secret branch of Soldier that has a base underground in Midgar. It's really stupid, but it's so top secret that Rufus and President Shinra didn't even know. Only Hojo knew, and certain people knew about its existence. But after Meteor and Holy did their damage in Meteor and Midgar in the first game, it was like people couldn't escape the underground base, and they were stuck there for 3 years until Dirge of Cerberus when they're unleashed. So people were living underground without sunlight or food. or they had plot devices for that, but it's just
Yeah.
these people were underground for 3 years. But somehow with this new timeline, Weiss has reappeared much earlier, like years in advance, but we don't know the context. We know that he's going to be in the battle simulator, so you can battle him.
Hmm.
And so it might just be that he's in the battle simulator and that's it, or it could be more. But Nomura stated in an interview that Weiss was chosen as they were looking for additional characters to take some of the weight off of Sephiroth as an antagonist, because they have multiple games, and they realized now that it can't just be Sephiroth for 10 years. It's going to cut down on Sephiroth. So they're coming up with these other people, like where can we pull other people from? And Weiss has appeared from Dirge of Cerberus. So, and apparently there's a mystery boss that has not been revealed either.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this decision to bring this character back. If he is just a battle simulator and has like optional like super boss or something and has no effect on the story,
Okay, fine.
and he's just like it's just like an Easter egg, like, oh, bet you didn't think we'd bring back a Dirge of Cerberus boss, and you can fight him or something, and he's really challenging, then that's fine. That's like it's just optional content. But if they're gonna write him into the plot of this DLC episode, that makes me much less excited for it, because I played Dirge of Cerberus and I remember this character, and yeah, like he's a really dumb character. So in my opinion, yeah, I don't think he's a good inclusion to FF7 story
Yeah,
in general.
I can see what Nomura's talking about when he says, like, oh, we need a new antagonist or we need another antagonist, because we can't have every game end with Sephiroth. We need other things. And I understand that, but there's more to an antagonist than just big hair and like an evil laugh.
He'd
You
be a
need
really cool boss fight, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you need setup for the character, you need story, it needs to resonate with people. The characters need to have conflict with them outside of just like showing you're better. There needs to be
Yeah.
something serious there. And so that requires effort to develop that. And I think there's other characters in Final Fantasy VII that are already antagonists, like Rufus,
Mhm.
right? Or Hojo,
Shinra, yeah.
that you could use, you know? But I guess they need some like Super Saiyan type thing where he's going to like morph into like
Ugh,
something else. But you have robots in Final Fantasy VII. You could do all sorts of cool stuff. You could have the
yeah.
planet attack you because you you jacked with the timeline. I mean, you could do all sorts of stuff. But
I think
anyways,
I I think like, well, because he said that, Weiss is coming back as a boss, but there's going to be a different boss as, like, the final boss for Yuffie's
right.
story. It's not gonna be him. So, I think, like, Roche would be a good choice, because he's already in the FF7
That's
remake, and he's
how
already in Midgar,
yeah.
and that would everybody said, like, "Why didn't Rose show up during the highway escape sequence in part 1?" Right? That would have been a perfect time to reintroduce him, and Cloud could have, like, a motorcycle battle with
Yeah.
him, during that final escape scene. Well, maybe he was fighting Yuffie at the same time, like, doing this other thing. He was preoccupied, like, he was dispatched to deal with Yuffie and Sonnen somewhere else. That would be like, based on what they've set up themselves, that would seem like a logical choice, in my opinion. Just have Roche be the final boss.
I agree with you because he's there and they need to do something with him.
Mhm.
And if he could die in this DLC, that would be tremendous. Like just, off camera, basically. I'm fine with that. I got a question. Uh, the fact that this 15-year-old girl is defeating a soldier first class, we're really watering the significance of this down quite a bit.
Well, I think he's second class, right? I don't think
Is
he
he
made
is
it
he
to
second
first class.
class?
I think he's second or third class,
Whatever.
yeah.
He's a jackass.
He
Okay.
he has the same sword that, like, in Crisis Core, Zack has when he's only a second class.
Okay. So
So
he's
I think he's second.
second class.
Yeah.
That's still kind of
Well, if it's Yuffie and Sonnen fighting him together. maybe,
Okay.
they could beat him.
Well, okay, fine. I'll accept it. But I saw this guy like jump his motorcycle over like a 80-foot wall and like took out like 9 freaking like mechoid
Yeah,
units
right.
with one hit. But
That's true.
anyways, it is what it is. But Weiss is in this version, this DLC. When I saw that, like it was supposed to be this cool reveal, like at the last split second. And honestly, the first time I was watching this DLC, I was kind of like, oh, this doesn't seem bad. Like I might get, like I kind of want to get this. I'll play this. And I saw the last 2 seconds. I was like, I'm not as excited anymore.
No.
Like you just killed it in like the last 2 seconds. Like it was crazy.
I agree, yeah. But then I was looking online and seeing people saying like, "Oh, he's just gonna be in the battle simulator," like you can tell by the background, I guess, like where
Right.
he was introduced. And I was like, "Okay, if they do it that way, then I guess it's fine."
Yeah, but
But
if
yeah,
they're
if he's like a very important antagonist in this, unless they completely rewrite the character to be like way different than he was,
well, and they'll
but
have to like how did Deep Ground get out now, and
yeah.
like it's like we're gonna do the entire Dirge of Cerberus in this DLC because he did have a mission, right? So it's very weird, but it also makes me wonder if they're willing to put this guy in here. They're absolutely willing to put Genesis in this game, you know,
Uh, I would think so.
because
And
he's in a similar camp. Like them two come from the same mother, in my
mhm,
eyes, not literally, but well, kind of, but.
yeah,
Interesting how that worked. They're in the same. They have the same problems,
yeah,
somewhat
they're yeah,
poorly
like you said,
executed.
he but if Nomura is just like, "Yeah, we need strong antagonists for these different parts," then I'm sure they are considering Genesis. I'm sure he's an option on the table.
Good God,
With yeah,
good God. Let's hope for Battle Simulator only.
Genesis, yeah,
Battle Simulator only. I'll be okay with that. That's an easy way to like appease the like the 4 people that like the character, and then like everyone else will be like, okay, fine,
yeah,
that's fine. I don't have to do it, but it is. So that's that's the Yuffie DLC and this whole thing being on the PS5. We talked about it being $20 possibly with the Japanese listing when it was translated. I would imagine if it's going to be, I don't know if that's a placeholder. Sometimes the placeholders just kind of like put something in there and it ends up not being that. But if it is $20, either this DLC is going to be fairly long. Like
yeah.
this thing better be like 15 hours or
Um,
I mean,
my,
like actual story, not,
mm,
oh, if you do all these like random generated side quests, it'll take you 15 hours, dude. Like literally, like from beginning to end, maybe like 10 hours for $20. That seems,
yeah. My guess is it'll be between 8 to 10 hours, and but with like there'll be all kinds of battle simulator like optional boss fights, and they'll say that okay, that brings up the play total to like yeah 15 to 20 hours. But
yeah,
really, if you're just playing through chapter 1, chapter 2, and just play through, you'll probably be able to finish it in like 8 hours.
yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm wondering if this is going to be like a season pass. Maybe
Hmm.
like you buy this and then you'll get, I don't know, who's the next character? Kate Sith?
The Kate
Like,
Sith DLC.
because they put that freaking cat. They put the cat in the original game, so he's already in. Well, I guess, yeah. Of course,
Yeah.
he's in. Anyways, we're getting into the weeds. We'll have to see. So, and we talked about whether or not we'd pick this up. Basically, if we have a PS5 at that point, we'll go ahead and pick it up. But other than that, we'll have to wait. But I'm gonna try to get a PS5 and play this. So when it comes out, but I'm not gonna spend $1,000 on a PS5.
Yeah.
So
For Yuffie DLC.
there'll be some good DLC.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, so that's the Yuffie stuff. Very, very interesting and fun to talk about. I'm looking forward to hearing more, specifically what's going on with Yuffie's character why are they incorporating Avalanche into with Wutai and basically making Shinra correct? Is this going to be like kind of her off on her own thing, like you were saying, Stan? How are they going to connect those dots? How are they going to work Yuffie's culture war character arc in this game? Is that going to be a factor? So very interested to see what they're going to do with it. I'm not disgusted, but could have been a little bit better, I think. So next up, we have on the agenda Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. My God. Okay. This was surprising. This was very surprising.
I was surprised, yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, it's essentially on the phone remakes of all the Final Fantasy games. And when I say all of them, I mean even the ones that weren't games, like the movie, Advent Children. So they have Before Crisis, which was the prequel to Crisis Core that only came out on cell phones in like the mid 2000s in Japan. And apparently it was pretty good, but you can't play it today because the server for it was shut down like 12 years ago. So no one's able to play it. There's videos of it on YouTube if you want to go watch it, but it's kind of boring. And there's also an RPG Maker remake someone made, but it's RPG Maker, so it's not the same thing. But kind of cool. But anyways, they're remaking that. We're going to be able to play it officially for the first time in the West, which is cool. Then they're remaking Crisis Core. They're remaking the original Final Fantasy VII again. They're remaking Dirge of Cerberus. And they're making a game out of Advent Children. And we're going to talk about The First Soldier, which is another mobile battle royale game that's got some story stuff in it. There's going to be story in that ties in with this. And basically, from what we've gathered, is that Nomura said that they would like to do chapter-based stuff. It's coming out in 2022. So some of it's still working it out, but it's going to be chapter-based. Possibly every month you're getting a new chapter with story. And it's, like I said, remakes of all these games and movies, but it's done with like a chibi art style. And let's just read some of this interview with Nomura where he talks about it, because I'm trying to.
It's quite a lot, yeah. They're like, and it's confusing because it's like they just flashed a graphic up on the screen that was basically this project Ever Crisis is going to involve all these different games, and you're just looking at Advent Children, and you're like,
The movie?
How does that even work? Like a movie has like a 3-act structure, it has like a.
This is the thing though.
Yeah.
Like this is the thing. And we're gonna read this Nomura interview, but from what they showed, first off, I was like, why would you commit to all that? That's a big commitment. Now people are gonna be really mad if you don't finish any of this. But on top of that, I looked at it and I was like, I wasn't crazy about what they did with some of the stuff, but I was like, okay, I am actually genuinely interested in Before Crisis, which is to be the first game. And then I'm genuinely interested to play the movie version of Advent Children. So it's like the beginning and the end. I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out. And then it's like, as we get closer to the original game, I'm less excited until it gets to like the peak, which is Final Fantasy VII, where I'm like completely appalled with what they did. So it's kind of like, yeah. But anyways, well, let's read this and then we'll talk about it. Are you still good on time? Because we started a little. Okay, just let me know. So Final Fantasy VII. This is from Famitsu. I'm just going to read Nomura's responses. The Famitsu article that was translated, but this is Famitsu asking these questions. So it says, for FF7 Ever Crisis, the stories from Before Crisis, FF7 takes place 6 years before the original FF7, up until Dirge of Cerberus takes place 3 years after the original. So this will use a battle system designed especially for Ever Crisis. Does that mean FF7 Advent Children, which was originally a movie, will also be playable? This is kind of what we were talking about. Nomura says, Ever Crisis is basically kind of like another remake of original Final Fantasy VII, using a bird's eye view of the field with chibi characters. Nomura uses the word chibi, by the way, with chibi characters, but also incorporating regular full body detailed character designs for the battle parts. So similar to PlayStation, you have more detailed versions in battle, but in, the RPG version, the story version, whatever, you're going to have these chibi characters. So he says it will be a command style RPG. This game is the answer to those who said they like the command style RPG system. Not on mobile, Nomura. Not on mobile. All right. Nomura goes on to say the titles are divided into chapters that allows you to have a free gameplay style. The contents will cover the original FF7 and work its way through the compilation of FF7 and include FF7 The First Soldier, which is that Battle Royale game. In regards to The First Soldier that I mentioned earlier, Ever Crisis will also have a part of the story within this game, in particular since the story covers what happened before Soldier, meaning The First Soldier. We've also added in a part about that legendary hero's youth, which again, he's kind of talking about The First Soldier being overlapped with Ever Crisis. And that story in particular is a huge eye catcher, Nomura says. And we have asked Nojima-san to write the scenario too. We hope you look forward to it. So he's excited about this particular story where there's going to be some overlap with that. And at any point, if you want to interject, feel free. But there's another article or another question. There's a lot of people who want a remaster of other games within the compilation. Instead of a remaster, seems like a completely new game. So why did you decide to combine them all into one game? Nomura says the concept of this game is to use the original FF7 as its base that players can enjoy. The original FF7, FF7 First Soldier, and FF7R are all separate entities, so I don't think this would wrap up other compilation titles. They go on to say, will the story of FF7 be presented chronologically, or will the story from FF7 Before Crisis leading up to Dirge of Cerberus be rebuilt specifically for FF7 Ever Crisis? Nomura says you will not need to play each title in its entirety before the next. Rather, each title will have its own chapters that you can select and play. Think of it more like a chronology of FF7. So that's kind of interesting. It seems like he's saying, hey, you'll be able to just choose different chapters. You don't even have to play them all. You can just, it's almost story mode kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That clarification makes me kind of on the fence and like want to see how it plays out, because at least for the original game, like I'm fine with chibi characters. I'm fine with, well, I'm not fine with it on mobile, I guess. But I hope it comes to the Switch someday. That would be a better platform for me personally to play it. But if it's just like you choose a chapter and then that like automatically takes you to a location, that kind of takes out the exploration element of FF7 with like the overworld map and going to different locations. If it's just like, I'm guessing you're going to pay like $1.99 or $2.99 for every chapter, that's probably how they're going to try to monetize this. And if it's just like, oh, chapter 1, like Midgar part 1, it covers like the first bombing mission right up to the start of the second one,
Yeah.
And then like part 2 is like, oh, you do the second bombing mission, you meet Aerith and you complete the wall market section or something, then that's just like not quite the same thing, but I am glad that they're at least doing something that will potentially like have a new version of FF7 that hopefully will follow the original story, like the original plot. That I guess is the biggest draw this project to me. I'm not thrilled about the compilation titles. I would like to play Before Crisis in some form, since I've never played it before.
Yeah.
And I am interested to see if Genesis is in Crisis Core, like the remade version. Just because then we'll finally have a definitive answer if regarding Gact and his likeness, and if that's the reason that they never re-released the game. Because if they make a new Genesis character and he has like a different appearance, then that would be like a dead giveaway. Like, okay, all the people who have been saying over the years that they have some sort of dispute over like the licensing for him, that would just confirm it basically. So
right.
I'm interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly interested in the original game and if it will follow the original story. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so he did go on to say that they asked him if it was going to be stories or going to be added as updates, and Nomura said that's right. New chapters will be added every month. So it's not like they're going to release this all at once. It's
Yeah.
going to be a slow drip every month. And I imagine, like you said, you're going to have to pay for each one, or maybe, God forbid, it's free to play and they have some other kind of monetization effort in it that's going to be very frustrating. But like I said before, and I agree with you, I'm excited to play Before Crisis for the first time. I think that's cool. I'm oddly interested in Advent Children just because it's a movie,
Right.
and I
How's that
felt
gonna
like,
work?
yeah, well, I felt like that movie seemed like a video game movie. Like, you feel like it was
Yeah.
made by people that make video games. Like,
Yeah.
like it wasn't a really good movie. It might have been a better game. And so,
Watch they'll, watch they'll make you play as, Denzel and Marlene for
oh
the whole
God.
plot of the movie, and you'll be, like, level 1, just, like, starting over, and you'll see Cloud and Tifa and the gang all do these awesome things, but they won't be playable, right? You'll just be
Yeah.
playing Denzel and Marlene the whole time.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Freaking, I don't know. I just want to play that part. I don't, I don't like what they did. I don't think it's, I think it's, I don't like the chibi characters. I think for the original game, especially because I don't see the PlayStation characters as chibi. They're
Hmm.
proportional to the environments, and Cloud in particular looks really chibi and very cutesy. And that's not the tone of the game for the character to be cutesy. He's supposed to be, passing off as this serious soldier, and this world has serious problems. And the fact too that they're monetizing this makes me feel like they're not even going to be focused on the telling the story in a meaningful way. I can't imagine recommending someone play the game like this, in cell phone form, but we'll have
Oh,
to
yeah.
see, but if the incentive behind this is that, like, if free to play, especially, I don't think the pacing is going to be correct. I don't think they're going to really prioritize anything really, but, and I share your similar curiosity for what they're going to do with Crisis Core. Are they going to fix anything with it? Because he's implied that they're like fleshing out certain story parts, right?
Mhm.
With like these origins of Soldier and stuff like that. So maybe they're going to try to fix it a little bit. I don't know, but it seems to me, like you said, if you're just clicking on chapters, which, okay, like this will tell the bombing mission. Okay, next chapter's freaking, oh, the plate falling. Okay, next
Yeah.
chapter's freaking the Nibelheim flat. Like, that's not really the same thing.
It's not quite the same, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I really don't like is the art style specifically of the characters. I think the environments are okay, but when I imagined Final Fantasy VII, like them fixing it, it was like maybe like Final Fantasy VIII characters,
Mm.
but with Cloud.
Not the, not the chibi Cloud.
No, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted at all.
Yeah.
But so, like, freaking Famitsu asked Nomura about this. So let me read this real quick. They say the new 3D chibi characters was the the 2D art design all look new. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what they were saying here, but they say the new 3D chibi characters, instead of for the 2D art design all look new. Who was responsible for the character illustrations in the game? Nomura says the illustrations were done by our art designer, and lists a name I can't pronounce. I apologize. But it says we originally wanted everything to be done with 3D CG models. But then, in order to maximize the presentation of the original game's atmosphere, this presented quite a few problems. We considered asking someone within the FF7 staff to do the character designs, but we all carried heavy workloads already. Thankfully, at the time, Fushi, that's not how you pronounce it, but came to us for some avatar design checks on a new project. And when we looked at her art, we thought, hey, wouldn't this style also fit the game? Even though she was part of the team on another title I was involved in. We asked her to join the Ever Crisis one. We had new hope. Okay, so this seems to me like they had a series of better ideas, and then they just quickly like crossed them out. Like Nomura's like, well, we thought about 3D CG ones, just better looking ones, like, all the ones that have been modded into the game. Like maybe something like that. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Well, maybe we'll have somebody like at Square, like work on 3D. No, they're busy. No, we're just gonna have this person do these like cell shaded like chibi characters, and it
Hmm.
like some of like especially Barrett, like it's just like an even tone of brown for his skin. There's
Oh
no,
yeah.
it's like it's kind of like the Final Fantasy 16 port to a degree. It's not quite that bad, but it's just like the like just even color tones of the characters is not something I really like. And so I just think that looks bad. And I think it's like, it doesn't really mesh well with the, like the character artwork that pops up on the screen. It just looks very low budget to me. And
Yeah.
that's okay. It doesn't have to be high budget, but it doesn't seem like, it doesn't look very good. It looks very,
Mm.
the original game had a very stylized look to it, and they're not really capturing that,
Mm.
I think.
I didn't have as big a reaction to it, as you did. I'm not a big fan of chibi characters either, but I think maybe I accepted it because I'm just used to the blocky Lego people, that
Yeah.
walk around the
Yeah.
environments.
Yeah.
And I think in that regard, these models, like these character models, are like, well, maybe not Barrett, but like Cloud and Tifa I saw were like of similar proportion, I felt like to those, little Lego people. Not the in-game, like the battle.
I feel like yeah, I know what you mean, like the actual walking around. I felt
Yeah.
like in game walking around in the original game, like the legs and arms are like people length. Now I'm not
Yeah.
saying that the like it looked good,
Mhm.
those blocky characters, Cloud's biceps being gigantic and then having like this tiny little like elbow that didn't look good, and this certainly looks more detailed. It's
Yeah.
just I would have preferred a more proportionate character that's a little bit more detailed, and just because even the fact that it's chibi, there's something about it that's just like kind of like cute looking, and I'm like
Yeah.
that's not supposed to be a cute story. Like people
True.
kill themselves. There's people that are killed. It's like not a cute story.
Yeah, how are they gonna present the Shinra tower scene in this one? Is it gonna be true to the original story, or is it going to have more of the FF7 remake presentation to it?
Yeah. I
We'll see.
guess it just irks me a little bit because this is supposed to be a solution to people to get that only played the remake. Like, hey, just go play this.
Yeah.
Like get caught up. You don't have to play that crappy PlayStation version. You can play this. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think it's
If
the
if it follows the original story of the game, chibi characters or no, and maybe obnoxious like touchscreen controls and everything, I think that would be an overall benefit. Like to because I know there's a lot of people who are just not gonna go back and play the PlayStation version for whatever reason. They can't get over the graphics. They're just not gonna do it, and they're playing the remake as the first time as their only exposure to this story. So if some of those people would be willing to give Ever Crisis a try, and if Ever Crisis is true to like the original story, more so than the remake version, then I think that would be a benefit. I would see that as a win.
it'll be cool if they enjoy the story.
Yeah.
I just think you're missing a lot with this art direction and this presentation because we even talked about this in our podcast with Mike and Heon, where the best PlayStation games with, and we brought up Final Fantasy VII, and Heon brought up like the the aesthetic and just the environment and the feeling you get from the art style of Final Fantasy VII and how it all meshes together so well, and it's part of the experience, and I just think that like it doesn't really work well with like I think the environments look okay, but then like I said, the cutesy characters and the like the single shade look,
Mm.
it doesn't look very. I don't like the way that looks, and then the character art for the like while during the dialogue they've added like these character portraits that are like very like detailed and but like it just all three of those things are not really going together, and it's got like these black dialogue boxes, and it's just like the original game had a very distinct look, and I feel like it looks like a cell phone game. It's like
It definitely, yeah.
so I think people would be better served playing the original again or like a modded version if they don't need those updated graphics. But I do agree with you if that's the only way they can play it and like they like it, like cool. I
Yeah.
might prefer Crisis Core on this version, to be honest. You know,
I think I will. Well, depends if they get rid of that stupid slot machine mechanic that was
dude,
in
no, they're
Crisis
free to
Core.
play. I think it's gonna be like,
Oh, you're gonna have to pay to keep it spinning, right?
yeah, yeah. All right, so that's that. I can't like I don't know what else to say about this, but I can't believe they announced all these different things.
Yeah, and then they announced, it's not even coming out until 2022, so not even it's only, 2021 feels like it just barely started, and they're announcing something that won't come out until 2022, so
Yeah,
we might not hear about that one for a very long time.
yeah, I agree, and this could dramatically change by the time that happens. It could be well, what if it gets canceled or something like that crazy? People will be furious. What we thought of what this was going to be, though, we had a couple different ideas. I thought it might be the name of Part 3 of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So Sephiroth was the Ever Crisis because now he's a new and greater threat. He travels through time. How do you defeat an enemy that can't be killed? It's the Ever Crisis because Ever deals with time. Thought way too much about it.
Yeah.
And then we were thinking Crisis Core Remake. So but like an actual Crisis Core remake, and they're going to call it Ever Crisis.
Yeah, I
Not,
thought it was I
yeah,
thought it was gonna be like a Zack DLC with using Final Fantasy VII Remake's, like, battle system and stuff, and
yeah,
that was
not right.
not right, no.
This is fine. I was, yeah. Then I think we are talking about a collection of original Final Fantasy VII games remastered. So this would have, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus, and maybe before Crisis a remake. And I think that's closest
Yeah,
to what this was, but we did not envision this being what it
a mobile
is.
a
Yeah,
mobile title, yeah.
yeah. Not this low budget. We didn't think that.
But, I mean, it makes sense, I guess the Japanese market is heavily skewed towards mobile,
Well,
so they're
it's just because it's on a small screen, because the word mobile means different things, right? There's
yeah,
the technical definition, it's on mobile, so it's a mobile game. And then there's games that look like a mobile game. Then there's games that are on mobile that don't look like a mobile game. This game looks like a mobile game,
yeah, it does, yeah.
But anyways, we're getting into the weeds here. So no Switch version, no nothing like that. So anyways, we thought too much about it, but it was a fun conversation. So the last thing here is the First Soldier, Final Fantasy VII, the First Soldier. It's coming to Android, iOS in 2021, so we're apparently going to get this a little bit quicker. It's a battle royale game set before the events of Final Fantasy VII. The premise is the Shinra is looking to bolster his military forces and develop the soldier program, so he creates these large battles and to put them to the test. Nomura also did an interview with this, but we'll just kind of quickly go over this and just say that Nomura talked about the battles and how it was going to be a battle royale game, but if there's going to be like level up mechanics and you could use magic and there's going to be chocobos and it's going to have story stuff in it and apparently he's real excited about it. But our previous theories were Sephiroth origin stories, not well, maybe it's soldier origin stories, but it's not
Yeah.
like a Sephiroth prequel. Crisis Core DLC, again, not correct. And then Replay 7 Remake as Zack. No,
Nope,
none of us
nope.
thought Battle Royale. When they announced that, I thought, of course. Battle Royale. Why didn't I think it? No. Do you think this was even supposed to be Final Fantasy VII? Like, or do you think they were
That's a
creating
good
a
question.
battle royale game and they're like, let's put chocobos in it?
Yeah, I don't know. Um, if you're excited for this game, I'm sorry, I'm not. I think it looks really dumb in general, but, like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of modern Square Enix is, they used to set the trends, right? And now they kind of chase them. I hate to say it. I hate to
Yeah.
say it, but like battle royale was not a thing. Just say 3 4 years ago, and then a game called Fortnite and PUBG came out and made a whole bunch of money. And so somewhere at Square Enix said, why don't we have a battle royale game? See how much money those people are making over there, and then they, like you said, they slapped FF7 on it because FF7 is their golden goose, right?
Yeah.
And it's just I'm sure Nomura is giving the PR like, oh yes, I'm excited for the story that we're putting into this mobile battle royale game, but it's like, it just seems like such a cash grab, you know.
Apparently
The
Nojima's writing some story for it. So,
yeah, yeah. Well,
well, here's the thing. Like,
yeah.
what's his name? The YouTuber, Maximilian or whatever, the guy that's got millions of followers. Can you remember his specific name for YouTube?
Yeah, Maximilian dude.
Maximilian dude. Okay.
Yeah.
This guy has millions of followers and he is a cool guy, great YouTuber, but he is like the Final Fantasy VII Remake fanatic. Like he's got all sorts of videos where he's just like leading the charge that 7 Remake is like an amazing game. And he's got
Mhm.
all these theories about what the story is going to be. And, if what he says happens, it'll be
It'll be
freaking
good.
amazing. Like it'll be
Yeah.
like, Jesus, this is tremendous. But
Yeah.
I've already gone through this with Final Fantasy Peasant where I was like, of course, that's what they're going to do. And they did not do that. Like it was like nowhere near as good as what Final Fantasy Peasant came up with. So anyways, I'm bringing this YouTuber up, Maximilian Dude, just to point out that this guy is like die hard Final Fantasy VII Remake. Great game. Amazing. Fantastic. He saw that Yuffie DLC. He was like, woo. He saw that Ever Crisis stuff. He was like all pumped. And then he saw the first soldier and he was like, this looks
This
like
is
it
stupid.
sucks.
Yeah.
Like that's a sure sign that like, some things we need to tweak with this. This doesn't seem like a good idea. Because you have your most hardcore following. They're like, no, this no. So
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be like Square has always like put Cloud as like guest characters and things like Smash Brothers and that other fighting game they had, guys, right? The
Airgees, yeah.
Airgees, yeah. So they've always done like cross promotional stuff. But just in recent times, it seems like they're just chasing trends. Like Final Fantasy 15 um, didn't need to be an open world game, but open world games were selling like crazy. They saw Witcher 3 sales, right? And they were like, Final Fantasy 15 is now an open world game because that's what people in the West are buying, you know. And now it's like, oh, some game Fortnite is making all kinds of money, right? So they're like, we need a battle royale game too. It's just, ugh,
Yeah, but
I don't like it.
I'm not a I don't play Fortnite. So what system did Fortnite come out on first? Do we know?
Um, it's released by Epic Games and it came out on consoles
First, right?
to first and then mobile, I believe. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Battle Royale games, I'm not like it's not my favorite thing, but playing that on my phone does not
Yeah.
seem optimal. I wouldn't even be excited if it was on the Switch. I would want 60 FPS. So I'd like on PC first and then console. I don't want to play Battle Royale games first on a cell phone.
Right.
I
Yeah, I
don't.
think I think our gaming preferences are a little more like Fortnite obviously has like very very skilled players and yeah, they're playing on PC and console for the most part.
And they got like
But
gaming
it
mouses and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but it also has a ton of people who just are playing it on their phone
So I'm
like
not, I'm not
on the
knocking
bus
that.
ride, you know.
I'm not
Yeah.
knocking it being on the phone. I'm knocking that there's no like other version,
Oh, I see. Yeah. A
like,
more refined version of the game.
yeah, where it would be in its best light. Cause now I can this just seems like it's going to have problems. But anyways, it's got materia in it and it's got chocobos and apparently you're training for soldier and Shinra's making you fight everything and to prove your worth. And
Yeah.
it's apparently got story stuff in it about the origins of Soldier.
I will be shocked if this is well received.
I might just watch it be like the crowning achievement of like the entire remake, seriously, like it's like a freaking masterpiece. That would be
It just
hilarious.
it seems like there's no way. It just seems like it has so much going against it. Even like you said, Maximilian Dude is like, this game is gonna be bad, And he was like, and I'm even gonna play it. I'm gonna play it, and we'll
Yeah.
all enjoy how bad it is together.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just. Anyways, I'm just continuously baffled by Square Enix's decisions sometimes, where they're like, "Oh yeah, this is trendy." It's like
Yeah,
my grandma or something. Like, "Oh, this is what the kids like." Like, it's like no,
exactly.
no, that's not what the
W
kids like. Not like that.
well, yeah, like, I think for the most part, there's people like Katase and Nomura who have some sway, and,
Yeah, but
Yoshi
Nomura's
P
excited about this,
apparently.
or he could just
I don't know
might
if I
just be
believe
his
him, yeah.
job, where he's just like, "Okay, I got to talk about this."
Yeah. I I feel like there's a lot of decisions up at Square Enix that are made, by people who don't really know what their core audience of gamers want.
Dude,
They're made purely for monetary profit motivation reasons.
I just realized we may have just cracked the code here, because we read that thing with the art and stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, we thought maybe we would have like our own people work on it, but like and like we looked around and everyone was just too busy, and it's just like maybe that's code for like people that worked at Square were like, I'm not fucking working on that. Like, like you crazy? That thing looks
Yeah,
terrible. I don't want
could
my
be,
name attached to that."
could be. Yeah,
I'm just giving it a hard time. Anyways, so I can't. Yeah, it's coming out this year. We'll see. I might just watch a YouTube video. I don't know if it's free. I might download it and play it for a tiny bit, and maybe it'll be fun. But this does not seem like the type of thing that I want to play. So,
an FF7 battle royale game. Never thought it'd happen, but here we are.
dude, yeah. I mean, they did Final Fantasy 15, A New Empire,
Oh
right?
yeah, another crappy mobile game from what I understand.
Yeah, but
Right?
that was made to like cash in on the what Clash of Clans or whatever the hell.
Clash of Clans, yeah.
Yeah. So
Base building mobile
right.
game kind
And
of thing.
apparently
Yeah.
they made a fortune off it. So I wonder if this is going to be another one of those things.
Yeah,
So
probably will make them a good amount of money. Yeah.
we'll see. But anyways, that's kind of a roundabout of all the Final Fantasy VII news and announcements that have happened over the past week or two. And definitely was a lot. So we wanted to get through all that in a single episode instead of dragging it out across, multiple episodes for those of you that
Yep.
enjoy the stuff. So hope you did enjoy. Was there anything else you wanted to comment on, Stan, with the, you know, Yuffie or anything else, Ever Crisis, anything else that you thought of that you wanted to bring up that we didn't?
I don't think so. We pretty much covered it all. I wish we could have ended on a happier note than other than Last Soldier, I guess. But sorry to anybody who is like looking forward to that, and I just trashed it the whole time.
Go
For
look
all I
at
know, it could end up being a good game, but I have my doubts. Yeah.
go look up Fantasian, Sakaguchi. There's a new
Oh yeah.
trailer. We'll
Hmm.
we'll
There's
we'll
new news about that. Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about it at some point. But it's a new creator of Final Fantasy, Sakaguchi, his new RPG. There's a trailer out for Fantasian, and it looks much better than the first Soldier. So
Hmm. Oh, way better. Yeah.
so there's the positive note, the silver lining.
All right. Yeah. There you go.
All right, guys, we really appreciate you checking us out on this podcast, and we will catch you all later. Take it
See
easy.
you next time.